Nazija.
Says, do not the unbelievers see? So it's not addressing Muslims. It's addressing the non-Muslims. Do not the unbelievers see or know? Well, it's like, have they not known already that the heavens and the earth, and it describes heaven means anything beyond the earth is heavens, that they're joined together as one piece, and God partly separated them very asunder. And every living thing was made from water. Would they then not believe? And I found that quite interesting because first it's addressing, as a believer, as a Muslim, it's not even addressing me. It's addressing a particular group of people who have not really, formed their belief around this book themselves. Second, unbelievers or non-believers, those who have not accepted faith. Have they not known or seen? So again, addressing a point where this is something that either it's known or it will be known. And at the end, it gives a rhetorical question. Would you then not believe? So if you look at the way it addresses your particular viewpoint. Yeah, it addresses your viewpoint. Okay, you don't believe in the universe having a creator, but have you not seen this? So it gives you some substance, in between, and then it asks you this question. Would you then not believe? Meaning that, there you go, here's the evidence. In relation to your particular viewpoint in life. So if you don't believe, what's stopping you from believing? Would you then not believe? Meaning, if this everything is not sufficient, then what? So what's in the middle is interesting. So there's two pieces of information within this one particular ayah. It says that the earth and every other bodies beyond the earth, and the cosmic heavenly bodies, was united in one piece. So it was a joined entity. And the second point being every living thing was made from water. I mean, we know now today that yes, our earth was part of our sun and how everything was joined together in singularity. And we can only go back to the singularity at that point where there was an explosion. Prior to this, even using the word prior is quite meaningless because of time, according to our scientific understanding, starts from that point. You can't say what was before that. But as far as we go, there was just one entity together, the earth and everything else, all the other extraterrestrial bodies. So we know that this was the case. But it doesn't stop there. This ayah also talks about the same ayah. And we made every living thing, God had made every living thing from water. So there's another point about the origin of life. Life is sourced in water. And we know that used to be the case as well. That's why whenever we want to find any evidence for life in other planets, we say was there any water in those planets, whether it was Mars or elsewhere. So, two pieces of information coming from a book 1437 or something years ago.
It's different.
So this is a translation in English and this is another translation. But of course, this is another translation. So you've got three there. The Qur'an is only the Arabic. Everything else is the meaning of the Qur'an. So they have, based on a particular translation from an existing translation. No, I think this one, what it is, if it's based on, if I'm not mistaken by this, I think it's based on a particular translation which was already available, and they did this translation or revision of that translation, modernizing according to
when I recorded last week?
English of today, for example, rather than thee and thou.
When I came, when we came a couple of weeks ago.
To have so many different English translations,
so this is a common problem with translation of water. If you're translating, the translation is only as good as the translator skills of both languages.
Well, I know that in any ancient text, the language is going to be very subject to interpretation if you try and make it to find the personal meaning in it or some too much. modern times.
So it is actually better to consult a few translations within the same language if you don't have access to. But any particular translation will give you the approximation of meanings. So you can't just throw away any translation unless they are theologically biased because it's coming from a particular.
I think for that, because I don't know.
We have some
There's a how-to on YouTube.
But this is
How to use it, how to record.
it can happen to every religious text. Like for example, the Jehovah's Witnesses in
I think it's
Christianity,
a Tascam DR40.
who have a particular understanding of God.
Even the St. James Bible is also
DR40.
So we would suggest, doesn't matter what translation you pick up, something's not clear.
No, the quicker one.
I mean, I have at one point
There's a 7 or 8 minute one as well. There's a girl.
resorted to about 20 English translations.
Hold on, Sarah.
Just to make a point where, look, when it comes to scientific exegesis, explanations of it,
I'll watch it when I'm like in the thing.
it's not a modern trend that Muslims are making up. I'm not saying it's just the...
Forget that.
Because you can find throughout, there's a common theme, what the word is for. And then if you go to the original Arabic,
I'll watch it when I'm in the car. I'll watch it when I'm in the car. Look at it, see, and then record it,
meaning.
listen to it.
So if someone translates something, electricity, we know that they had no notion of
Unless it's
electricity.
on the laptop.
Then you would say this particular translation is biased.
Sure you can, yeah.
Common scientific terminology and retrofitting it in a text which didn't have a word.
If you open the bag, you'll find it inside a carrier bag, and there's also a little
But if you had
kind of
something like,
Maplins bag,
some...
and also you'll see it straight away. And in the little bag
Can you explain
is also
this guy?
the microphone.
Muslims come here with their own interest.
It's not wireless.
The lapel mic.
And
The lapel
he would
mic
talk about
is wireless, yes. And there's some batteries in the bag as well.
I don't know about this person.
As well. So
This person I know
there's a number of
But generally, whoever I'm
We
going to give it
speak about Islam with a particular emphasis on biblical concepts.
what Muhammad Ali Bhai this time was trying to do is actually
When I say
listen to
common
what
ground,
is
you know
being
people who are
recorded.
Jews and Christians.
You get me?
If he brings
you
a
put it-
point, he
Can
will
actually hear somebody talking, can actually hear the person next to him talking fully, and it's receiving and recording, and it's both wireless. So
there are
look at
others
it.
who have.
So another brother,
So the example I gave from this is just to highlight
No, he's
Qur'an or the
big
author of
IT
the
guy. That's
Quran
his job, isn't it? Something.
no wonder.
I think so. Yeah, that's why he's traveling all over the world. He does.
around us, rather than just
He doesn't just go for holidays. He goes for work purposes.
You just go in a particular family and that's it. Your forefathers
He
must
goes to Germany as well, doesn't he?
saying no. What if your forefathers are right?
Germany,
Are you
China,
also not
Poland.
Why don't you think and reflect? Don't you see?
That's the type of job I like. Where I have to go everywhere. Using their places. What countries you in there?
Me?
Beyond naturalism, everything is
I've been to a few countries in Europe, and then been to America, and
addresses
Now that we
them
over
and
25
asks
countries.
questions
no,
like
5-6 countries or something.
to come to this realization.
It's Pakistan.
the originator of
Does that count?
So this question that ends by saying if you don't not believe, then you really have to internally ask yourself. Now I know coming from a book more than 1,400 years ago talking about astrophysics and biology,
Saudi,
and this information is not something that was known,
Abu Dhabi.
accurately enough then. Because people had different notions about the origin of the cosmos.
Germany,
People
England.
had different, varying, contradictory notions about the
you going Rome?
life, whether life comes from
Might be going
earth,
Rome or might be going
fire,
Hamburg.
air,
Well, you know what? This is a good thing. I like.
and the Quran seems to somehow just
Do you know anything about the Quran?
No, I don't really. I've learned a wee bit about it in school.
Then
Do you want to know a few things? You've got a couple of minutes.
Is this just a
Yeah.
coincidence?
Are you
Or is
sure?
it more than
Yeah.
coincidence? So when you
Okay.
examine the book and you
First thing
find
we
examples
know
of
about the Quran.
examples,
Yeah.
then you have to ask yourself, this book claims
Never
to
been
be
changed.
coming from the creator of this universe who is all knowledgeable, giving you this information for you to understand the creator. If all of this fits, then what is stopping you from going that way, rather than closing to a point saying, I'm not interested, or I don't care. Because that point of I don't care is the point where it comes from sort of emotional, reactionary approach, where you may have been brought up in a religion where then you realize there are a lot of things that don't make sense, because you've been really pressed to believe in this because you were a child and this position, and when you grew up and you came to, you were exposed to different ideologies around you, then you realize that actually there are more than what I believed already. So there are other worldviews out there which seems appealing to me. So that shouldn't just stop you from saying then, okay, I was wrong, my common view is wrong, and I'm not going to be interested anymore to explore any further. It should really then drive you to saying, okay, maybe the truth is elsewhere. Truth is out there, but it's elsewhere. And how do I know truth is elsewhere? It's just to look at everything in the broader aspects. What if every religion has something in common? Even materialism has something in common, which is the fact that reality exists, that we are part of reality. If this is your starting point, that you're not a brain in a jar. If you think you're a brain in a jar, in some museums, and you're having this imaginary, illusionary thinking that you're actually having a conversation in Speaker's Corner with a Muslim and giving you a religious book. Some people unfortunately believe that. They think this is all in a dream, and you're actually in a dream world and you're imagining these things. Unless you come out of this reality, I mean, how do you know you're not actors in a computer game?
Have you heard of the movie Waking Life?
What's it about?
It's a movie about how maybe our lives are dreams. It's very interesting.
So how do you think we can go about coming out of this worldview that we could all be in a dream?
I'm not sure we need to come out of that worldview, really.
So you're quite content with the idea that it could all be a dream?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't bother me really one way or the other. It's sort of, we have certain decisions.
You can ask the question like,
No, I mean, we have like certain decisions to make as our lives appear to us, and so we do those things, and we try to be as mindful as we can about those things. But to me, it's, I guess, I mean, my idea of God is sort of ever-changing and complicated, but for me it doesn't make such a difference. It's like, what parallel universe are we living in? Is there only one? Are there multiple? Are they all happening at the same time? It doesn't really make a difference to my day-to-day living and how I treat other people, and how I appreciate other human beings. So yeah, it's interesting that seems that's a central question for you. It seems, because just in my understanding, it doesn't seem so pertinent.
But there's one interesting common theme in this case. Even though this is a dream of some sort in your understanding,
maybe not.
Okay, even within this dream world, there seems to be certain rules and regulations in place. You can't just do whatever you imagine to do. You can't just fly off. Like, let me just fly, like I do in our dreams. Like in my worldview, this is not a dream. But when I'm in my dreams, sometimes I fly, right? I can just fly, I can just disappear from one place and appear in another place altogether. I can understand how this is possible in a dream. But in this particular setting, as we are now, if this is your dream, still you're limited because of rules and regulations. There are certain things that you cannot do because that's how this seems to be operating around you. So if you want to say, for example, I just want to just beam myself out now to somewhere in Barbados, you can't do that. So what's stopping you? Because of the natural laws that's operating within this particular area. So if you take that view as something that's real, then think about it. Okay, given that worldview, suppose it's in a dream anyway, still I have to follow certain rules and regulations because that's how I'm restricted by it. You're already restricted by it. Where does this restriction come? Question. Who put or what put that restriction? In our dreams there are no restrictions, but in this particular dream there are restrictions. What is restricting it? Because things which is not existent by itself, non-existent entities don't put restrictions. Okay? Only things which are only thing or only a being which is able to put restrictions within this reality around you, whatever that reality to you is. So it cannot be nature itself, because nature is not a conscious entity. Nature is the world around us, which is described as a process. So if you know, you could put water on the ground and there's oxygen and carbon dioxide, so you've got this breathing, CO2 is taken in by the trees and water, and then they grow. So which is important. That's the process. But it's not a conscious entity like we're saying, okay, I want this to happen because I am willing it to happen. Conscious entities like ourselves, we have intentions and we have the ability to carry out our intentions. So you are intentionally listening rather than you just happen to like zombies and you're coming here and then you have no control over yourself. You have control over your thoughts and you have control over your will. So you are intending to stay here and then at some point you say, I have to admit, you have this choice, you're exercising.
What's your name?
Mansoor. What's yours?
Yaron.
Okay, nice meeting you, nice meeting you.
And I want to tell you, I just want to tell you that, like, I don't know if you know, but this is super cool because that's my first encounter with Islam that is not hostile, which is like so rare. I have Arab friends, Jordanian friends, Palestinian friends, but I've never talked to them about Islam in my life. It's like we talk more about politics because there's politics obviously between Israel and Palestine, but talking about Islam, I never talked to a person about Islam, and that's like, I don't know, I don't believe in Islam right now, but like, that's like, for me it's another set of beliefs and ideas that I respect, and that's like, now is the first time in my life in 25 years, and it's crazy that it happens outside the Middle East, that I'm just, a person tells me these ideas, you know, that's crazy. And because normally I hear Islam is such a bad connotation, you know. That's really cool that you're doing that. And like, you should, way to go, man. That's so cool.
Do read?
Yeah, I'll read.
I'm sure there are translations available in Hebrew, which if you're fluent in. Or whatever language you're fluent in.
I think I won't even understand the Hebrew because the translation is so ancient that the Hebrew is very complicated. But I'll try also if I have a hard time with the English. But thank you so much.
And do explore more and ask questions.
I will.
Because the world around us, I mean, we have to live, even though it's a dream, we have to live within this dream in a mutual understanding and tolerance. I may have a view, you may have a view, but our views shouldn't just be imposed on each other in such a way that we cannot even live together. Yeah? We have to live together in peace and harmony and justice. So at points there might be issues due to mainly political understanding of the reality, whether it's the land, or whether it's the oil, whatever that might be, or there is this very harsh religious traditions. But we have to live together. And part of this living together is to understand each other. If we come together in a common ground, that we are all human beings. If I had an accident and you took me to the hospital, I needed blood and our blood matched and you gave me blood, what does it tell me? We are one brotherhood.
Our blood will probably match.
Yeah.
Where are you from?
I'm from the Indian subcontinent. But my point
close,
is,
I'm from Iraq.
Yeah, so we are human beings. It's not that we are aliens and because of our different religious views on different ethnical background or ethnicity. As human beings, we have lots of things in common. What we need to harbour and to nurture is this understanding in ourselves. You know what our Prophet Muhammad said in his final sermon? No black is superior to a non-black, and no non-black is superior to black. Meaning, if you are an Arab, and continues, if you are an Arab, no Arab is superior to a non-Arab, and non-Arab is superior to an Arab. There's no difference between them. The only difference between us is who's more God conscious, who are more pious and righteous in the sight of God. So our differences are all arbitrary. We don't have any of those differences. And whoever goes by these differences, then obviously we need to really re-explore our understanding of the world and come to this realization that righteousness and piety means what? That you know who created you and gave you life, and you're thankful, and you give your gratitude to that individual who's given you life. Of course, it's not my parents that gave me life. Neither it was your parents, because they were just a process. Some people mistakenly think this is the naturalistic view that, of course, my parents gave me life. If I died as a child, would my parents give me life again? Would they be able to? They won't be able to. Okay. Your parents will be able to give life again if you died as a child. It just shows that they didn't have the power in the first place to give you life. They were just a means you to come into this world. So what gave us life? Well, I as a Muslim, I know that the creator of the universe gave us life. So should I be thankful? So if you took me to the hospital and you gave me life and I woke up 3 days later and I still find you there waiting, just to say that I'm okay. And the first thing I heard from the doctor saying, you have given me blood to save my life. Am I going to just simply say, get lost because you're an Iraqi? My natural response should be one of gratitude. I should say thank you. So if the Creator gave me life, gave me the whole blood circulatory system and the heart pumps the blood around me, gave me the kidneys to filter out the bad products, shouldn't I be thankful? So in Islam it teaches that the essence of worship is this gratitude to God. Of course, not many gods, like many people falsely assert, to one and only God, one and only Creator. When we say God, some people have different understanding of God. It's the originator of the universe, the Creator, the one who is eternal with no beginning, the one who is everlasting with no end, the one who exists all the time. So if you were to learn, such a being who's given us all of this, didn't just put me on this world. It was already there, the air to be there. Would it make sense to you? The water to drink, to sustain my life, the food, the fruits and everything. So I want everything there, and still am I not going to be thankful? So the essence of worship is not that you just mechanistically, you just do some rituals. It's to really, with your heart and your mind, with your soul, you show gratitude to the one who's given you all of this. And that's what Islam is about. By doing this, you attain the inner peace that you're all seeking, that we are all seeking. And of course, the consequences of this is a good reward in the hereafter, where there's going to be paradise.
What's the meaning of Mansoor?
Mansoor has two different meanings depending on the context. It comes from the verb nasara, which means to help, to aid. So the Mansoor is this form where it means someone who has been helped or someone who is victorious.
Can I ask a very ignorant question?
There's nothing ignorant question. Of course, go ahead.
Why do women wear hijabs?
It's an interesting question. The Qur'an actually highlights analysis to this. Not because of this. You see, in Islam, we consider, very interesting question, but I'm going to be biased because I'm a man answering that question.
Yeah.
That answer would be much more appropriate if you asked a Muslim lady, you need a Muslim lady wearing the hijab, and then you know that it's not a bias because she's practicing. But I'll try with my own biases. As human beings, we have this attraction between male and female. Okay? Putting besides this same-sex attraction, this is epigenetic things, not linked with our discussion. Epigenetics, a lot of things are epigenetics. You're not, finely tuned in your genes to do that, because the environment has a factor to play. So in general, man and woman have between the opposite sex attractions. So when we want to live our lives in a society where there's going to be interaction between man and woman, unrelated, then there has to be some form of engagement where each one is protected and honored and respected, rather than we behave like animals and we just, the next person we see, a nice looking woman, and we just say, this is mine. This happens in the animal world. If you're powerful, if you're very strong, then that particular female is yours, and you will dominate over the other males for you to achieve that. in a human society like this, we cannot let this happen. Just because the female is a weaker sex in general, right? This is a given thing.
I would disagree, but anyway.
But not in general.
Yeah.
When I say because physically they're not strong. Emotionally they're stronger than males, I think. I'm sure I will probably agree with you.
I think we all know.
Yeah. So it will be very unfair to let them protect themselves in a world where physically they're not able to support themselves. And over the centuries and in different world regions, they have been abused and oppressed because of their weakness in physicality. So women have been oppressed.
Well, I don't think. Anyway, it's a separate conversation.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So I'm just generalizing. Okay, there are exceptions to this. So Islam put forward a view where to maintain this balance between the sexes, it gives you certain principles to maintain, so that the society doesn't totally break down. It functions and it is maintained in a very harmonious way. So it tells both sexes, lower your gazes. Okay, when you interact with society, don't lower your gaze. So you don't just look at with lust and so on. Because what you're then doing is you're going by your sexual appeal, nothing else. You're not looking at someone with who they are. And if you're looking for a mate, for example, you're just looking at only one aspect of things, your physical needs. But we are more than physical. We are emotional beings, spiritual beings, where we need emotional and spiritual support. How we complement each other. So to maintain this, we have to have some understanding. How this understanding is, first thing is when we lower our gazes, so we don't look at lust. When you're in public, women and men both need to cover up modesty. So part of this covering up, you have a dress code. So how much men have to dress and how much women have to dress. There seems to be, if you don't appreciate as yet, but on deep reflection you realize, there seems to be more clothing requirements to cover up ourselves in terms of the modesty for women. So men doesn't have to require to cover up their hair, which is called hijab. Niqab is the face, right? And if you look at it, why is this so? I can give you my humble understanding, okay, however right or wrong that might be. How much do I spend, or how much males do they spend on hair every week to beautify their hair? I'm not going to ask you that question, don't answer it. How much, if you ask in general, how much do women spend on their hair?
Well, it's also because society has told us that women have to operate in a certain way to attract men, which is sort of, we're the only animal that actually women are the ones who try to beautify themselves. Usually it's men, so that's just weird.
Yeah, so women do beautify their hair more than men.
But I don't think that's innately to women. I think because our society has conditioned us in a way to believe that.
There are lots of societal conditioning. But within this conditioning, what's happening is men, when they look at women, they consider the beauty of the hair as well. If you have a very beautiful woman and change the hairstyle, the beauty might, or the reflection of the beauty might change to different individuals just because of the hairstyle.
Men talked about hair for a while yesterday.
Yeah. True. But as I'm saying, I'm generalizing. So Islam doesn't want to interfere of our interactions just because you look at women's hair and we're actually not thinking about anything else, you're only thinking about beauty. So just to cover this up, and historically speaking, at the time when a prophet was around, there were certain women who would go by and they're offering themselves to the service of man through money. We know who we're talking about. And they had a particular dress code and so on and so forth. Islam says to actually show that you are not one of those, so that you don't get molested in the society. So whenever you are wearing your headgear and you put your clothes, over garments, then they would know that you are a very respectable individual woman. You are not a very loose woman where people can molest you. So the Qur'an actually addresses this point.
It's not the woman's fault if people molest her.
Of course not.
Of course not. That she's loose. It's that people are taking advantage.
Of course not. So it's to prevent men, you can say, from their prying eyes and say, look, She's not a loose woman. She's a modest woman. She's a respectable woman. You know, so the whole approach and an encounter will be different because this is how she's known. So to prevent from being molested, this is one of the main arguments.
I think the question that I really have about the hijab is that, so when religious Jewish women who are married, let's say they cover their hair also, and they wear certain clothes that are very modest and covered and things, or a certain definition of modesty that has them covered, and then but that also usually goes with a whole bunch of other rules that they have about relating to men. So for example, they often won't touch men even to shake their hand, and I've been surprised to see that like a lot of Muslim women that wear hijabs that I've been like in contact with will like hug men that they're not related to, and to me, and to me I'm very confused just because from the Jewish context, like a woman who is covering her hair and looks religious like that wouldn't do that, and so I'm like, what goes with what? It seems like things are
very interesting observation. I would share the same astonishment as you are sharing. This is all coming from not from the religious understanding of why she's doing this. We have a lot of people coming or grown up from a religious tradition which says you have to cover your hair. So they don't consider it why she's covering her hair. So if the only thing that identifies this particular woman, whether she's a Muslim, is just the hair, but everything else, if she took the hijab, you would not know that she was actually reflective of a Muslim woman. She does everything that everyone else does. It shows the total misunderstanding of her religious teachings.
Maybe it's a certain interpretation.
No, it's not interpretation, because religious interpretation throughout, even though how different sectarian it might be, its understanding is quite clear. Women, if they're not related, like if it's not your father or your husband and so on, you shouldn't be intimate like this, even shaking hands. So why people do this is because for them, this teaching is not reflected in their practices. They don't realize that. They're putting a headgear because that's how they think they should wear it, not what it's worth for. So that's why they're doing this. But someone who understands the religious teachings would not approach like this and even shake your hands. So the problem happens in, say, consultations in a doctor and a GP when they go to the doctor, and because of the medical profession, the way they approach is like to shake their hands, isn't it? And they find it very difficult to say why they don't shake their hands. And we hear this a lot of times. Women facing this difficulty. So
it's hard to
the people that you have seen, they're actually they're coming from a particular background where they have been practicing their religious teachings. So as a cultural garb, they're putting on a headscarf. That's all it's reflecting. So if they didn't like their culture, they would take it off. But a religious woman who understands the teaching should put it on, and she will also apply the practices not to do all these things.
So touching is like, what's the perspective on touching?
So,
like a married woman, it's the same?
No, a married woman would not want to shake hands or hug someone else apart from the brother or husband or father, for example. It's because we know from the human makeup that touch
is a powerful
thing. So even if you just shake your hands, very just like a normal everyday practice, you never know when.
Touch has potential. I know.
Potentially, trigger something within you, some chemical reactions in your brain, and then you are moved by this. So to prevent all of these things happening, Islam operates from the mercy of God in the principle of prevention rather than curing when it happens. So if you look at all of these things that you mentioned so far, hijab, lowering the gaze, this is preventative. Everything is to prevent things happening, and then you find a problem where you can to rectify it.
And so also like unmarried men and women, they also, if they're religious, they won't touch someone of the opposite sex?
Remember we said there's so much in common.
Oh yeah. I mean, especially Islam and Judaism has so much in common, even more than Christianity, I think, because it's so much more a way of life than it's like it's in your everyday practice. It's what you can eat. It's what you can do. It's like everywhere. Whereas Christianity, it's like you go to church, and then
maybe they have been very liberal interpretation within the church history, and that's why they are into this. But on Orthodox Jewish traditions, they maintain this orthodoxy and traditional understandings of things. And if you're extra liberal, then of course you don't even believe in God.
Not necessarily, but certain traditions.
I mean, you'd be surprised. You might find someone here. He says, "Yeah, I'm Jewish. I'm from Israel, but I don't believe in God."
You found one.
So he didn't say don't believe in God.
He doesn't.
He's from his own words, he's an exploring person. He's an open-minded person.
That's very generous.
Yeah. So if you really want to know about the position of women in Islam, I would encourage you to speak
talk to some ladies.
Lady who practices, and you find that makes more sense. Because the perspective will come from.
Find like women here that
if you go to Regent's Park Mosque, which is not very far from here, in Park Road in Baker Street.
Okay.
This is Marble Arch, but today Sunday you might find actually something. So Regent's Park is open, so you can just go there and say, I would like to speak to some Muslim women about Islam, and they will try to get something. Because people go there. For example, the midday prayers about 1 o'clock-ish, around that time there will be women, and you might find someone to speak to. Regent's Park, if you take the tube from here, it's called the London Central Mosque. The Baker Street is the closest.
Are non-Muslims allowed in that mosque?
Yeah, it's open. I mean, as you go in, there is this reception security guard who opens the gate for the cars, for the parking and so on. They have scarves, so it just tells you have to put a scarf and long sleeves and no shirt skirts.
Yeah. No, we were in Turkey a couple of summers ago, and we went to a lot of mosques there. It was really nice. And so I got this whole scarf deal down.
So it's all provided for you. Don't say, "Oh, sorry, buy your own and bring your own." They will provide you for this, and that's just to maintain.
no, mosques are cool.
Yeah.
You know, now the big thing is Al-Aqsa. And I remember when I was a kid, it was more peaceful times. I went there. It was something that I've never seen. It's a beautiful thing.
Have you by any chance listened to the Qur'an being recited? Because this is just
when I was in Morocco, when we were in Turkey, you hear it everywhere.
We went into there was a mosque in Ankara that like really got me. It was a newer mosque, absolutely beautiful. It's just like big. Maybe you can tell me the symbolism. There was this like really big like ball, like globe that was hanging from the middle of the ceiling. It was a really beautiful mosque. You get to like sit on the floor, which is nice. It was really peaceful, and the verses that they were singing were so gorgeous. And I think it also felt sort of coming from Israel, where when you hear these things, it feels like scary. And being there in Turkey and hearing them in a very calm way was really like sort of like healing in a really powerful way.
because our Qur'an,
It's very
Qur'an is an oral
makes
recitation.
me sad, like what's going on right now.
It's such a shame. There's so much beauty that these traditions can learn from each other and interact with, and there's just so much fear everywhere.
Unfortunately,
It's really a shame.
Yeah, Allah.
you have to go. All the best.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay,
Thank
you take
you.
care. Yeah?
You too.
Right now we were